ضيوفنا الكرام، ما شهدته المملكة من إصلاحات واسعة في بيئتها التعليمية هو ثمرة للتعاون الوثيق بين الجهات ذات العلاقة، وفي إطار ما تقوم به هيئة تقويم التعليم والتدريب لأجل أن تكون محفزة ومؤثرة في رفع جودة التعليم والتدريب وكفاءاتهما بالمملكة لأعلى المستويات العالمية. ندعو الآن معالي الدكتور حسام بن عبد الوهاب زمان، رئيس هيئة تقويم التعليم والتدريب، لنتعرف على الدروس المستفادة من تجربة هيئة تقويم التعليم والتدريب في تقويم التعليم والتدريب خلال جائحة فيروس كورونا. Our respectable audience, the wide reforms that the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia has witnessed in its educational environment is the result of close cooperation between the relevant national authorities. The Education and Training Evaluation Commission is playing a major role in enhancing the quality and efficiency of education and training in the Kingdom to the highest international levels. We are honored to invite His Excellency Dr. Husam bin Abdul Wahab Zaman, Chairman of the Education and Training Evaluation Commission, to learn more about the Commission's experience during the coronavirus pandemic and the lessons learned in the field of assessment of education and training. معالي الدكتور حسام بن عبد الوهاب زمان حاصل على كل من دكتوراه وماجستير في تحليل السياسات التعليمية من جامعة بيتسبرغ في الولايات المتحدة الأمريكية. يشغل حاليا منصب رئيس هيئة تقويم التعليم والتدريب منذ 2019، وهو عضو مجلس إدارة المركز الوطني لقياس أداء الأجهزة العامة أداء منذ يونيو 2020. شغل عددا من المناصب، منها مدير جامعة الطائف ومدير عام المركز الإقليمي للجودة والتميز في التعليم، وأمين عام مجلس المركز ذاته، والمشرف العام على فرع الجامعة السعودية الإلكترونية في المدينة المنورة، ورئيس لجنة جائزة مكتب التربية العربي لدول الخليج للبحوث والدراسات. فليتفضل معاليكم مشكورا. Please welcome His Excellency.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا رسول الله. صاحب المعالي رئيس مجلس الإدارة الدكتور أحمد العيسى، أصحاب المعالي والسعادة، ضيوفنا الكرام، السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. اسمحوا لي بداية أن أتقدم باسمكم لمعالي راعي حفلنا الكريم الدكتور أحمد العيسى على كريم اهتمامه ودعمه حفظه الله لهيئتكم، هيئة تقويم التعليم والتدريب، ولمشاريعها حقيقة، والتي من أهمها ويجسدها اليوم هذا المشروع، مشروع مؤتمر الدولي لتقويم التعليم والتدريب، والذي تنظمه الهيئة كل سنتين في استمرار أعمال هيئة تقويم التعليم والتدريب في جميع الظروف ولله الحمد، وبتوظيف جيد لآليات التحول الرقمي والتقنيات المختلفة طال جميع الجوانب، بما فيها يعني هذا المؤتمر بدعم من معاليه ومن مجلس الإدارة الموقر، في ظل حقيقة دعم ومتابعة واهتمام من حكومة سيدي خادم الحرمين الشريفين وسمو سيدي ولي العهد حفظهم الله بقطاع التعليم والتدريب عموما، وبمجال تقويم التعليم والتدريب على وجه الخصوص، وهذه الهيئة هي الجهة الممثلة لهذا العمل. سنستعرض بحول الله تعالى في هذا العرض أهم أعمال هيئة تقويم التعليم والتدريب ومبادراتها خلال الجائحة فيروس كورونا، والدروس المستفادة من هذه التجربة. الثلاث المبادرات الأساس في عمل الهيئة خلال الجائحة، وهي تنفيذ الاختبار التحصيلي عن بعد، وتنفيذ زيارات التقويم المؤسسي والبرامجي عن بعد وإعداد متطلباتها، وأخيراً الدراسة التقويمية للتعليم والتدريب خلال الجائحة. فيما يتعلق بالاختبار التحصيلي عن بعد، كانت أهم وأولى المبادرات التي قامت بها الهيئة خلال الجائحة، وجاءت حقيقة يعني مع بدايات انتشار هذه الجائحة ومع نهاية الفصل الدراسي الثاني للعام الماضي. وتتجسد أهمية هذا المشروع من كونه أن الاختبار التحصيلي هو أحد اختبارين تنفذهما هيئة تقويم التعليم والتدريب كمعيار للقبول، والاختبار الآخر هو اختبار القدرات العامة. ويعتبر يعني هذا الاختبار التحصيلي هو أهم معايير القبول في الجامعات، حيث يعطى عادة الوزن الأعلى بين معايير القبول، فهو أعلى من المعدل التراكمي للثانوية العامة وأعلى من اختبار القدرات العامة من حيث الوزن النسبي عادة. وأيضا يعني يتجلى أهمية الموضوع في كونه لم يسبق للاختبار التحصيلي أن نفذ عن بعد بحيث يختبر الطالب من المنزل، لكنه كان ينفذ بصيغتين ورقية ومحوسبة، ويغطي مجالين أيضا: الاختبار التحصيلي للتخصصات العلمية والاختبار التحصيلي للتخصصات النظرية لطلبة المسار الأدبي. عند اتخاذ القرار حقيقة باستمرار عمليات التقويم، وخصوصا ما يتعلق بالاختبارات يعني ذات المدى الواسع وعالية المخاطر مثل الاختبار التحصيلي، كان هناك حقيقة عدد من المعايير التي تم وضعها للمفاضلة بين منصات الاختبار المتوفرة والتي يمكن من خلالها تقديم هذه الخدمة. وكان من أهم معايير المفاضلة هذه هو التزام هذه المنصات.
One of the important services and standards is that these protocols and coding protocols should be used according to the highest international standards, and the ideas of monitoring the tests, recording the tests, and with the lowest use possible of the internet WinBats in order to have options for all different environments of the strength of the internet signal. And also one important thing was to deny the access for all of the networks during the access, and to detect and to end any illegal access of the examiner to any of these networks, and also the options of downloading and uploading, and also the idea of making sure that no screenshots can be taken so that the test will not be spread to other examiners, and also coding and using artificial intelligence technologies to monitor the behaviors of the examiners. We have more than 300,000 students, males and females, and we need to have cybersecurity solutions to protect the test and the outcomes, and also to apply and implement the standards of quality and quality assurance. All praise due to Allah. The segment of students who ended high school education, who finished high school education, were to have this test, and more than 300,000 of them, more than 200,000 of them used the online option, which is 70% of them, and also other alternative options were provided to other students who did not have the ability to have the technology that will enable them to attend from their homes, or those who had the desire to attend to the computer-based centers. So generally speaking, the rates of attendance to the test online was better and more than the rates of attending to the test centers of computer-based options. But all praise to Allah, all of them were more than 85%, and online was more than 90%, as you see in this table. Online test was also very important, and a part of it was provided according to coping with the situation of COVID-19 crisis, and also the situation was good, with the exception of the material and the questions related to the second semester of last year, so that we took in consideration the crisis that happened and the online option that was at the second semester. So we had 16 templates for the scientific division, 8 for theoretical decisions, covering 7 materials, and all the questions were through the multiple choice questions, MCQ. One of the most important things that we have when we speak about different situations is that the test was important, and we had to make sure that we monitor it and it is safe enough and protected. That's why we had to weigh up our solutions. And also the second step was to monitor that and to use artificial intelligence to study the behavior of the examiner. So we had 6 main steps, starting with the registration of the and recording the audio visual of the examiner, all of the test time, also behavior, recording the behavior and analyzing the behavior of the examiner using AI. Also, the third step, which is detecting the illegal actions that may occur by the examiner. The fourth step is that a human eye will detect and analyze the AI results and make sure if the illegal action was really happening. The fifth step will be a supervising and control commission that will re-study the results of the human eyes detectors. After that, the sixth step, the legal action or the legal committee will give their final decision. It is very important to mention that only that we gave an obligatory opportunity to all students who wanted to examine online to go through this experience in a trial version of the test so that they make sure that they are capable of committing to the test and what the illegal actions that may affect their experience. All of these steps were attended in both the trial and the actual tests. In the next situation, these are the results for the online test. And as you see here, this is the segment that I want to focus on because this is the most important thing that we use in order to make sure of the quality of the test. We have more than 217,000 examiners online. 30% of them used where 30% of them did not have any illegal actions or any violations, but 70% using AI were considered videos of violations. So we went back to the second stage where human eyes reviewed these violations and these videos, and we found that 88% of these states or these cases that were considered violations by AI, 88% were passed. They were just normal actions or normal behaviors, not real violations. 12%, only 12% were considered violations by the first step. They went to the inspectors and the supervisors, which is the third step. 41% of them through the second review were considered not violations. So 59% of the violation cases are still considered violations in light of what the supervising committee saw. After that, they were provided to the legal committee or the legal administration to give their final opinion. Compared to the paper-based tests and the computer-based tests, we found that it was a very successful experience, and the legal department found that there were 1% of actual violations that required the cancellation of the test. The number was 2,242 cases. This is regarding the quality of the education. As for the education, the test itself, the test was prepared in a short period of time, and we had the option to provide a short version of the test compared to the complete test. And the original test, the complete test, we had a rate of 0.91 rate of success. And also in our version, which is the half test, it was 0.84, which is more than enough in order to say that our test was good enough. We also benefited from that experience. We prepared a study of 177,000 70,000 students, males and females, in order to know more using the repeated measuring way or method in order to send a survey related of 15 items, and the survey was provided before and after the trial version of the test and also after the actual test. The survey was stable and the rate was not less than 0.89. The results were very good, and it referred that the results towards online achievement tests was better than expected, and it was better than before and after the trial version. Also, the results of the surveys after the trial test was better than the achievement results of the surveys before the test. They considered it as important as the paper-based test, as reliable as the paper-based test, and we had an overall improvement in their trust and confidence in this test, and it improved maybe more than 10% after each of the survey's phases. One of the most important lessons learned as well of the continuous evaluation experience is that all these cases of different national and international efforts on the national level requires good partnership of all different uh, stakeholders, and we would like to express our thankfulness for all of the governmental entities that participated with us under the umbrella of the National Committee of the Digital Transformation. We wouldn't be successful like we were without their participation. We had a success rate of 93% because of the participation of these stakeholders and these partners, like the different ministers and different ministries. I'd like to thank them a lot for their support and for the confidence that they put in us in order to continue evaluation efforts in spite of the crisis. We also had some other lessons learned through the achievement tests and the other evaluation in our ETEC. Sometimes we say in Arabic that we thank crises for giving us new options that we wouldn't think of without having the crisis. We knew that online tests is less costly in terms of the direct or indirect tests without compromising the quality of the test itself. Also, we have lesser periods of time in terms of announcing the results. Also, the platforms of online testing provide a lot of indicators for measurement that will help not only in implementing tests, but in building them in the future. Also, we have different wider options of online tests, not only in crisis times, but it can be a strategic solution that will be one of the alternatives, if not one of the best and most important solutions in the future. It is very, very important as well that digital transformation in tests should be accompanied with specialized research and studies for the psychometric aspects as well as the ethical, cultural, and educational aspects as well. There are things that we need to take care of, like hosting data, the privacy, and the protection of the privacy of the examiners. We have an open invitation for experts and investors in the field of education because we have a lot of investment opportunities for online test solutions. We also have a necessity based on the study that we have conducted that we need to anticipate the possible problems and to positively deal with these concerns in order to get over them and to avoid them as much as possible. And also we need to benefit from our experiences like we did in the ETEC because of the reactions of the social media people. We calmly and in a quiet way uh, tackled the situation, and with the directions of the head of the board of directors and the board of directors, we communicated with people and we continued communicating with different partners in order to clarify the positive points and the positive outcomes that will arise and to deal and to answer the negative concern that may be arise. Also, it was proven that it is important to review our regulations and our uh, rules in order to provide better solutions for the people, especially the students with disabilities and with special needs. And it is important for the computer-based centers to be ready. And this, we provided supports, and our universities provided support, providing solutions for the students who didn't have technical solutions and technical abilities. Also, finally, it is important to continue providing training through before and after crises for all stakeholders of the tests, especially the inspectors. This was the first experience. The second experience that was provided by the uh, ex- by by the ETEC is the online visits for evaluation of the programs and the facilities. Our EDEC had to cancel a large number of visits for the educational, higher education facilities for accreditation purposes because of the COVID-19 crisis. So, because there were no alternatives at that time to continue our evaluation processes, but we had another thing to do, another assignment, which is to have a study, to conduct a study related to the quality of the educational processes in the private schools or the education sector. It was required by the EDEC. So we thought it is very important to continue this study, and it was relevant to try some of the online visits or virtual visits technologies and online visits mechanisms and the digital transformation alternatives to continue working on this study so that we continue making the visits and providing technical support for the teams working in these visits. We found that all praise due to Allah, we could do this work well, especially after the EDEC started studying the international standards and different international organizations that continued working through the COVID-19 crisis. So we continued working and we developed a template that uh, we used in order to provide a list of inspections and evidence in order to collect them so that we do the review in order to cover all of the fields and elements of evaluation, also providing a cloud computing space to provide and to save all of the matrix of the documents and provide a guideline for the private education facilities with the documents needed and also the access to these documents when needed. Also coordinating with the coordinators of universities, colleges to assign the deadlines and the timings and the suitable time, appropriate timings, whether AM or PM for the national and international people using different platforms like Cisco, WebEx, and Zoom, also providing a template for the attendees of the interviews that will be sent in a good time before the interview is done, and also that all of the stakeholders should be attending, and we will conclude these interviews between 45 to 60 minutes for every uh, meeting. Also, these were virtual tours that we have done inside the educational processes and educational facilities using Zoom so that the evaluation teams will see the places will as if they really are there in order to document that with videos, documents, and screenshots and photos, like the laboratories and the different facilities of the universities and college, and all of this will be saved in the cloud computing space for this school or college. We have scheduled more than 91 accreditation program visit, 9 visits for the institutional accreditation. Until the 15th of October, 5 accreditation visits for institutions were done, and we have 190 inspectors were invited, 10,000 participants attended who benefited from this program in these virtual visits. We also implemented and scheduled more than 14 workshops for the visits and for the attendees. Also, more than 240 visits sessions were implemented using WebEx platform. Also, we will continue working during this current semester. One of the most important lessons learned from this second experience is the continuity of the educational process, which is the oath that we took in Saudi Arabia in order to continue our evaluation processes. Also, technology and social media, artificial intelligence are more than enough to elevate the quality of work and the continuity of the monitoring of work. It is also important to improve and to build upon the positive directions towards the agile organizations implementations. And also, we need to confirm that it is very important to have objective measurements of the quality of the outcomes of education, also to build our abilities in order to have this online correspondence. This is the third experience, which is a brief of the most important lessons learned of a study, evaluation study that was done by the ETEC during the COVID-19 crisis at the end of the last educational semester. This study was aiming at finding the quality of education for the learning, e-learning and education training evaluation during the COVID-19 crisis, also identifying the challenges that institutions face, also providing recommendations. This study was conducted during the period after the conclusion of the second semester and before the starting of this first semester of this year, so that we could benefit from the experiences of last year and to improve what we want in the next year, which is the current year. Most of the lessons learned and most of the challenges that were identified were beneficial and we could implement them in the new year that started weeks ago. Because we conducted this session after the end of the second semester of last year, we needed to diversify the different kinds of our evidence, and we used the triangulation uh, method so that we cover all of the people and all the stakeholders, teachers, parents, students, deans, and faculties, and in order to analyze the different platforms that were used in these institutions. It is no secret that education in Saudi Arabia during COVID-19 crisis was depended on different ideas of platforms. For example, in public education, we had LMS. We also had private platforms for the resources of education, like in terms of LMS, we had the unified platform and the future platform or the future gate. As for the resources of education, we had learning resources. We have AIN, National Education, and we have AIN channels. All of these platforms had their purposes and their limits and their goals to support students and schools. One of the most important results was to identify the educational waste that we had and analyzing Arabic language materials, mathematics and sciences, comparing the 8th to the 18th weeks, the period where e-learning started, considering the results of education as a potential waste if no students continued learning. So we noticed that the potential educational waste during this area was considered important, and it was very important. Not less than 38% of the expected educational goals of these weeks for these materials or subjects. And it may be 62% in maths and 33% in science. One of the most important things that we knew from this experience is to compare this study to other international experiences in different countries that we came through this study. Most of these online solutions all over the world did not succeed in providing complete services. Uh, so there were incomplete abilities before the COVID-19, and any of the countries we had some potentially effective uh, in countries in the decentralized educational services countries. It did not depend on the availability of technologies of online situation, but also it requires new roles, new authorities, authorizations, strategies of leadership, and providing works for students, for the teachers, and changing the methods of evaluation. It is no secret that school is not only a place for providing teaching, but it is a whole life experience, and it cannot be summarized to just, or cannot be limited to just an online lecture. And this was the problem that was faced by different countries all over the world at the beginning of COVID-19. It was also clear, like Dr. Al-Isa mentioned in his opening speech, and as other experts, international experts said that e-learning will not be the alternative, the complete alternative of one-to-one learning or one-on-one learning. Many students or many children do not find the enough educational services. School provided alternative and compensation to any weakness that they have at home. So the study also said that not all subjects can be studied online, because it's not only knowledge-based skills. There are social skills that depend on interaction among students, and other behaviors that need to be raised psychologically, socially, and physically, and it cannot be covered fully through online education. Also, a lot of challenges that were posed, especially in medical and engineering subjects in higher education and other training education and vocational education, although online education provided some support, but it required a lot of cost and a lot of training. Also, one very important idea that was provided by the uh, education is that there were a lot of waste that was provided, like what happened at the end of the semester of last year. This waste may be increased because of the summer vacation that was long, and it is important to compensate for this waste that happened. And this is a priority not only for the beginning of this year, but it may continue to this year and the coming years as well. As it is said, this doesn't mean that we marginalize the previous skills. The coming skills will not be present without having the previous skill. There are different evidence that similar situations like COVID-19 means that if we do not compensate for the wasted skills, the missed skills, we will not be able to have the common skills, and this will weaken their abilities in the future. So it is important that educational systems in the future will depend, and there will be differences according to the differences of dealing with the current missing skills. It is important to compensate for the missing skills, and the study said that we need to need each individual to study according to his own or her own skills, and to increase the time allocated for some subjects. The study also assured that it is important to increase the authorizations of the authorities of the educational directories, because some of the problems or challenges are different from one directory to the other. There are also another important lesson, which is the importance of developing effective mechanisms to improve the performance of public and private schools all at once, so that we need to, at least as a minimum, to have experts of evaluation attend to make sure that there is effective interaction between the students and the teachers. Also, there are templates that can be considered successful and unique and exceptional during COVID-19 crisis, especially that some private schools and private institutions. And it is important to speak about these successful stories and to make them available. There were other pioneering solutions from a number of teachers who were excellent, in addition to what we see now in terms of the national experience of madrasati or my school, which was very important, benefiting from what happened last year and the evaluation that followed last year. It is also important, according to the study, to provide more authorities to universities, directories of education, schools, and other financial authorities to diversify solutions and to uh, face any urgent challenge. Also, there weren't enough platforms to provide comprehensive solutions for all, so it was important to provide solutions for the diversification of these platforms if necessary. It is very important, as well as one of the most important recommendations of the study, to take care of the analytical evaluation measures and the platforms of online education and online testing, governing these online platforms, and to train the evaluation experts and share the lessons learned with the educational societies, and giving them the opportunity and the authority to have virtual live monitoring of the performance of teachers and the systems of education in different schools. Also, one of the strategic solutions that was provided by the study is that regardless of this situation, there is an important work provided regarding the education and the schools with different ideas, providing the development of different mechanisms to continue interacting with these systems. And the sustainability is important in terms of using these ideas. So in the future, we need to have at least one online education day each month in order to continue benefiting from these results and to preserve our abilities. Like we had a mechanism for training schools on evacuation in urgent cases, we can have a similar case to have one day of online teaching every month in the future. And this can be obligation for all institutions in the future, so that all of these mechanisms and abilities will continue to exist in case we need them. Also, we need to develop mechanisms of online education evaluation. This includes periodic tests, whether diagnostic tests or achievement tests or final tests, and also benefit from AI technologies and support teachers in benefiting from these platforms. EDEC saw that there is an improvement of the uh, skills of students after they have attended the trial test before the actual test. Also, one of the most important results that we face is the uh, availability of these solutions as a priority in 2021 in order to compensate for the missing educational skills. This may require additional lessons to be taught, also providing educational management methods to be provided hand in hand with the main educational efforts. So some students may require a lot of effort to compensate, not only in the coming year, but in many years. So we need to continue following up and monitoring these segment of students to compensate their missing skills. Also, one of the most important things that we saw in the future is that we needed to continue benefiting from the uh, competencies-based education, and also making sure that education is a national process, and we need everybody to be responsible, and it is a priority for the Ministry of Education, for the universities, for the TVTC, for the colleges. But it is not only their responsibility, it is the responsibility of everybody, and we need to tackle this responsibility well. Also to confirm that teachers have a very important role,
وتوفير الدعم اللازم لهم
and we need to provide them with the continuous education and training so that they have better abilities to continue teaching using these online situations. Also, to strengthen the relation between families and schools so that they all work together with society in order to uh, uplift this process. Also, one of the recommendations that it is important to not neglect other roles, especially the student supervisor, the supervision, educational supervision staff. All of them require online abilities to continue working during the crisis. Also, it is important to have their work in natural process of education as it is in the online situation as well. It is important to have the ability to build educational teachers online and to take care of the options provided for people with students with disabilities and students with special needs, and not to neglect them while providing solutions for these segments. Thank you for listening, and sorry for taking long, and I hope that we will have success in the future. Thank you for listening, and I hope that our solutions and our lessons will be coping up to the aspirations of Saudi Arabia in the field of education and the concern of our wise leaders. Thank you again, and peace be upon you all.